James Lynch here for MiddleEasy, joined by one of the big winners at UFC 263 last weekend, Lauren Murphy, who's coming off the split decision victory over Joanne Calderwood. Lauren, how are you?
Really good, man. It's a gorgeous day here in Houston. Yeah, it was an awesome weekend. So, yeah, I'm a happy Lauren Murphy this week.
I bet. Great performance, like I mentioned off the top there. I know you hadn't fought since October. It seemed like you were pretty comfortable in there, but how did you feel, having a bit of a layoff coming into this fight?
Yeah, it was the layoff was a little bit longer, I think, than I would have liked. But I really had some injuries from last year that I really needed to take the time to heal, especially at this level. It's like you don't want to be, hey, every time I start doing an interview, this one starts getting crazy.
No worries. He's just excited. It was a big win. I'm sure it's, it's just getting into it.
Yeah, no, I felt pretty comfortable, but it's always like, it's been a process for me learning how to breathe through those nerves and how to do a lot of self-talk to make sure that I'm as comfortable as possible in there, because it is a big stage and the lights are really bright and the people that I'm facing are super tough. So, but I thought that I was about as comfortable. I'm doing so much better about that. I was as comfortable as I could be in there, for sure. And
how was it having the crowd? Because that was something different, obviously, from last year, right?
It was so cool. And it was cool for it to be a crowd in Phoenix, too. I still have a lot of love out there in Phoenix. And it was cool to have so many, Lauren Murphy fans in the crowd. Really, it was cool. It was a good night.
I know you studied Calderwood at length, so to speak, going into this fight. Anything surprise you about her in the matchup maybe you weren't anticipating?
No, I thought she was the best JoJo we've seen in a long time. Her cardio was really on point. She really committed to her strikes. She wasn't just kind of putting them out there. Sometimes in the past I've seen her throw not so hard just because she wanted to avoid the takedown. And I thought she really committed to her strikes. Her clinch was really good. It was, I knew her clinch would be a tough spot, but I felt pretty good. And so going back, there's some stuff I want to improve in my own clinch, thanks to those exchanges. So I thought she was the best JoJo Calderwood we've seen. I was glad that we prepared so extensively for her.
Yeah, and it ended up being a really good fight. And of course, I think like most expected, it went to the judges' scorecards, just showing how durable both of you are. How confident were you when you went there? Because, with the judging, you never know, right? But I know, like you said, you got some roots in Phoenix. So how did you feel?
I was actually surprised when they said split decision, because I was like, we won the first round. I thought in the moment we won the first round, and then I went back and watched the fight. I've watched it twice now back, and it looks to me like I won almost every exchange in the first round. I was with much, much harder shots. I was hitting her with the cleaner shots. Anytime we got into an exchange where we both landed, I thought I was getting the better of almost all those exchanges. The only thing that she really landed was that spin elbow at the very end, but then I took her back. If that round had gone, 30 more seconds, I would have been on her back. She would have been dumped on the ground, and I would have been on her back, totally sealing the deal for me. So she didn't really land any kicks. We trained hard for her left kick. She didn't really land any kicks until the third round. She started finding her groove. But, yeah, I thought the first round was all me. And then the second round was clearly all me, and I came really close to finishing her. So I really wanted to have that kind of performance, where I go in and finish a title contender. I really proved that. I came really close, so it's still on the list to finish somebody in the top 10. But I thought I got closer than I've ever been, and I got closer than a lot of flyweights have ever been. To finishing a top contender.
So they announced that you're the winner, and you're in Arizona, right? The fans are on your side as well. How do you celebrate after a win like that? Because that must have been really cool, just with what was at stake in this fight, especially with, a potential title shot on the line.
Yeah, we all went to go eat. A lot of my old training partners and teammates from the lab came. Some of my best girlfriends that I made out in Arizona were there. Some of my best friends from Alaska flew down. So,
oh, no way. Nice.
Yeah, actually, 6 people from Alaska flew down to come to the fight, and so my friend Aurora, she's a writer. One day she's going to write a book about my journey, but she's been to every fight I've ever had.
Wow,
and
that's cool.
I'm sorry, she didn't make it to Utica. She couldn't come to Utica, but
we're going by percentages here. It's probably about around 90%, right? So that's good,
Fights. Yeah, she's been to almost all of them, and so she flew down. It was good to have her there. So yeah, after the fights, we all went out and. I got cheeseburgers and appetizers, and people were bringing me cookies, and it was awesome. It was a really, really cool night.
Have you spoken to Derek Lewis since the fight? And if so, what did he say?
No, I've been ducking his ass because I know he's shit about. I know he's gonna shit about it being a decision.
Yeah. Figured as much. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I imagine, I'd probably take this week off and then maybe go back to the gym, or what's sort of the plan after this?
Yeah, I mean, I worked out yesterday a little bit, like just went for a run, like around the neighborhood for a couple miles. I have a bag at home that I hid out in the sun for a while just to sweat, because after the weight cut, I'm a big flyweight. I cut a lot of weight. So after the fight and after the weight cut, and then I ate a bunch of junk food, it's like my system, I get really bloated, and my system's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing to us right now?
Mm-hmm.
So getting out and kind of maintaining like a little bit of a workout routine is really good for me.
You had a really good post leading into the fight. You posted a photo of your husband and talking sort of about the preparation that goes into your fight camps and all the notes he takes. Like, how meticulous is he, and how much of an asset is it just, having someone that you're married to that's also, really a supporter of, your fight career and, heading in the right direction?
I can tell you I would not be here without Joe. Like, I would not be on this ride without him. And not only has he like enabled and facilitated me fighting at this level, but like literally he's made himself indispensable to me fighting at this level. Like I literally could not do it without him. And, during fight week, my team takes such good care of me, but Joe's really the cornerstone of it. And so, we've gone into fight weeks before, like this fight week, my coach had an infected tooth that he never once complained about, didn't say anything about, waited until fight week was over to get it fixed. Joe did a big job interview for a higher ranking position in the Air Force. He did that during fight week, and not that he didn't tell me about it, but just he kept it pretty much to himself, so I could focus on the fight. These are just kind of little things that my team does for me so that I can stay 100% focused. We've gone into fight weeks before. Like one time we went into fight week when we fought Andrea Lee, and Bob's grandfather had died.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was like he was pretty close to his grandfather, and the whole team knew, and they didn't tell me because they didn't want to bring me down that week. They wanted it to be all good energy. And so my team really does go to these extra lengths to take care to make sure that we're in the best spot mentally and physically to be winning these fights. And Joe really is just he does take meticulous notes. Like, he talks to me a lot. So if I'm feeling down or depressed one day, he talks me up. If I'm super jacked up and elated about something that's going on, he shares that with me. He's like my alarm clock, my reminder, therapist, my masseuse, my husband. I mean, he's incredible. Everybody should be so lucky to have a Joe Murphy in their life.
And on that same note, a lot of the talk on Saturday was Brandon Moreno winning the title, and what he's been through, being cut from the UFC, coming back and winning a UFC title. But you have an interesting story as well in terms of, there was, I think, a point where you were 1-3 in the UFC, or you had a 1-3 run, and now here you are potentially fighting for a title next. Have you been able to soak that in, and just seeing the success you've had? Since then you've made some big changes, moving to Texas and a lot of other things. Have you been able to sort of soak that in, especially after a big win like that?
A little bit. Actually, after the fight, I was so bummed that I didn't finish her. I was
okay.
I was really hard on myself about it. Mm-hmm. And we went back to the hotel, and I was pissed. I was furious with myself. And it took a guy, my coaches heard me, but they were pretty jacked up, and they've been on a roller coaster themselves. And so it actually took a guy named Andy Galpin, who's my he oversees my whole camp. He's one of the best physiologists, in the world. But we were talking, and he was like, you need to appreciate what you've really done here. This is incredible. He was like, you were never an athlete before. You didn't grow up doing any of this. You picked up the sport in your late 20s. 4 years later, you're in the UFC, and now you've won 5 in a row to go on to become a UFC title contender. And he was like, you've never been finished. You've never even been rocked. Nobody's ever come close to hurting you. He was like, you're a tank. You're out there mauling these girls on the ground. You're hanging with them in the stand-up. You're one of the best fighters in the fucking world, and you've done it in such a short amount of time, and here you are proving it. And nobody has a resume that's even close to yours. Nobody in the division has a resume that's even close to yours. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, you're right. It really
it's true. Yeah.
So when you look at my whole body of work and you look at my story, it is a pretty incredible story, and I'm very, very proud of it. And it's not over yet. We're still right.
So I keep alluding to it. Has there been any update on whether or not you've earned the title shot? Have you spoken to your management, or has the UFC talked to them? What's the latest? I know we're a few days removed, but I'm sure that's something that's on your mind.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to anybody. Lou was at the fight. My manager, Lou, was at the fight, and so we hung out afterward, and he was all smiles. I mean, but it is true. I don't want to say like, I can't say like, yes, Dana said we're getting the title shot, but he did say probably at the press conference. He said that's probably what's going to happen.
And that's better than a no, right? So there you go. We'll take something from that, right?
And it's like, honestly, like what would you say? I've won 5 in a row. Not only does nobody in the division have a resume like that, but hardly anybody in the UFC goes on, such long winning streaks over the caliber of opponent that I've been facing. I've faced women in the top 10 consistently at 125, and I'm beating them. I'm consistently getting my hand raised against them. And, I've just put myself in a position where I feel like I can't be ignored now.
And not that it ever should have been a factor at all, but I think also Rose Namajunas beating Weili Zhang also helped your case, because there was some talk, and I don't know why, because she hadn't had many title defenses, of Weili moving up and fighting Valentina. So now that that's out of the equation and everything else, and obviously Valentina would never fight Rose. They've trained together. So I think you're in a good spot. That's just my take, but I think things are looking good. And not only that, but I remember interviewing Valentina. Actually, I can't remember if it was after, I don't think it was after your fight. It was one of the fights, but it was after her last win. I asked her, I said, sort of, what's next? And she looked at your fight and said, I think that's what's next. So the fact that the champ's acknowledging that, I think, puts you in a good spot. I don't know if you caught that interview, but she was talking about, just kind of keeping the division moving, so to speak.
Yeah, I know she's mentioned to me once or twice, and one of the things that I really respect about Valentina as a champion is that she wants to take on the best contenders.
Yeah.
And me, like, hands down, that's me. Nobody else has the resume that I have in this division. And, so I am the number one contender, and I think Valentina's been recognizing me for a while now. I've heard her say my name a couple times. And I think she knows that I'm one of the, strongest flyweights she could possibly face. And I am the next challenge for her. And I'm going to give her hell.
Looking at that matchup stylistically, you talked about a bunch of things here that I want to just reiterate. The level of competition you fought, like you said, who has a resume like you? Number 2, you never been finished. Like, how much do you factor those things in this matchup with Valentina in terms of that? She hasn't really faced someone like you before.
Yeah, no, I think exactly that. I think she hasn't faced anybody like me before. Like, I am a big flyweight, and I am ungodly strong, Mm-hmm. And I think that things like, there's some intangibles in fighting that people kind of overlook, things like hardness and just toughness, durability, things like that. And those are all attributes in my favor 100%. And that's what makes me a tough fight. That's why I keep coming out with these victories. It is attributes like that make me such a great fighter. And a good fighter like Valentina, like, she can recognize those kind of attributes, which is why I think she's been saying my name for a while now, If
you held all the cards here, when would you want to fight next? What would be sort of an ideal time for you?
I would say October, because that would give my team time to work with Derek and get him through his championship fight, and then time to focus on me and get me through my championship fight. So Derek's going to win the title in Houston this August. It's going to be fucking incredible. It's going to be his 5th win in a row. I'm coming off my 5th win in a row. I'm going to go on to fight for the title, and I'm going to win that this year too. And we're going to have 2 champs at Main Street by the end of the year.
And the timing's good too. You can enjoy a bit of the summer, right? That's always nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be training, like I said, like I've already, even after the fight, it's just good for me to move around and stuff. But I think right after you fight, there's always this like really steep learning curve where where you were just in there, you've put your body and mind to the absolute 100% max it can go. And then when you're kind of coming down off that, it's just a really good time to like look at what you did wrong, make sure you're fixing those habits. It's almost like you can be in a flow state after you compete, and just your ability to learn and take things in is super high. So I think it is important to get back in the gym right away and start practicing.
Did you have anyone win any money on your fight? Did anyone message you? Because you were the underdog going in. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, somebody bet $30,000 on me. So,
really?
Yeah, he said, but before the fight, he told me he was going to bet $50,000. And that if I won, he would send me $5,000. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to win. So, get your checkbook ready. And so
Did he message you after the fight saying that he'd do that?
Yeah, he messaged me before the fight saying he was going to do that.
Okay.
And then after the fight, he said he bet $30,000. He said it was the most that the bookie would take. So he said he would give me like $3,500 out of that. So
there you go. Not bad.
Yeah,
no, it's a nice bonus of being an underdog in the fight. And my last question, what is the plan for the rest of the week? We know you're eating some good food, hanging out with your dog. What's on the agenda?
That's about it, really. I'm going to pop into the gym actually today and go see all the guys, move around. Like I said, it's important for me to just kind of keep a sweat going and get my heart rate elevated at least a few times this week. And it's just a good time to to practice things that I did wrong in the fight, stuff that I want to get better at while it's nice and fresh. Yeah, just going to be doing like little victory laps, going checking out all the restaurants that I had saved on my Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. All the important stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like I am a big flyweight. It's hard for me to make weight. You know, I work hard to make weight, and it's a long process for me. So yeah, definitely rewarding myself at the end of it is like a big deal.
No, it's great. Lauren, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I always want to thank my team, but I really believe I have the best team in the world. And that's going to be one of the keys to me beating Valentina is that I'm a very good athlete. And then my team tells me what to do, and I'm enough of an athlete to be able to execute the plans that they come up with, you know? And so I love that. And I really want to give a big shout out to Alex Cisne. He's my head coach out here at Gracie Baja Katie. And then Bob Perez, of course, at Main Street. Like, he's just doing such big things with me and with Derek. He's an incredible coach. And then I always shout out my husband. And I also want to give a shout out to Blackout Coffee because I don't know, coming home this week and waking up every morning and having Blackout right there, it's just been super nice. It's a really good way to start every day. So if you get a chance, check out some Blackout Coffee. They're badass.